Welcome everyone to this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio. I'm Tim Grady. I'm here with Lou Weiss. Lou is the sponsor of the show through his company, All Metals and Forge Group. If you're looking for open die forgings or seamless rolled rings in several metal families for industrial and machine use, check out steelforge.com. Today we have joining us Norbert Ore, who is the senior correspondent for Manufacturing Talk Radio, who looks at the purchasing managers indexes around the world and some regional surveys in the U.S. Norbert, again, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you as always.
So the numbers look really, really good, Lou. What's going on from your perspective?
Looks pretty good. Everyone's beginning to really cook with steam, and it seems as though that the global economy is significantly improving over, the past year with COVID, even though there's some new variants of COVID, but nonetheless, the U.S. seems to be really cooking with steam. So I'm not going to take the steam away from Norbert Ore, and I'm going to let him talk to us and you folks about what's going on in the world. Norbert, welcome aboard.
Very good. Well, we're all interested in what you have to say also, Lou, to get a feel for what's happening right now. That's what I try to do, is I try to talk to enough people that we get some sense of how busy different industries are. Right now, home building is just unbelievably strong. And it's driving copper prices, it's driving lumber prices. It's one of the biggest issues it's driving is labor. Because the last time we had a downturn in the house and home building, an awful lot of people who were subcontractors decided to get out of the business and just said, I can't survive. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go find something else to do. And they did. And now I also happen to believe that these things have a way of self-healing, that those people who get frustrated and leave, when they see things really get good, they get frustrated and come back. And so I think we'll see that. But most general contractors, they only have one or two subcontractors these days, because they have to work so closely with them to maintain their business and so on. I was down in Florida 2 weeks ago, and the number of huge developments is just amazing. I was in the Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce area, and they've always lagged in terms of some of the other areas. If you don't compare Port St. Lucie to West Palm Beach, for instance, it's two different worlds. But Port St. Lucie is on the map now and moving up. And I looked at, we wanted to get a rental for a 4 or 5 day stay in a condo or something, and everything was booked. Just amazing, the amount of activity.
Well, I feel grateful that Port St. Lucie is doing so well. I'm not sure how much it has an effect on our entire U.S. economy, but you're right. Things are coming back even in the smaller, more restricted manufacturing areas.
Yeah, the biggest challenge that I've found is, and again, anecdotally, talking with the friend of one of my sons. He is a car dealer, and right now he has 30 cars on the lot. And they're not able to get components at the assembly plants that they need. And so they're apparently not running, or else they're running certain products, higher end products or whatever from that. But they have not been able to get all the components. And of course, his comment was, they all sell, if I've got 30 of them, they all sell for list price. Because I don't have a good reason to discount anything about when I don't know when I'm going to get more cars from that. So I think the backlog in many of these industries is much like automobiles and housing, that we're seeing a tremendous amount of demand that is pent up, and we'll have to see how long it lasts.
So Norbert, what is happening in the UK and the EU in terms of their indexes and how they're feeling about their economy?
Well, the UK came in at 55.1, and they bounced off of a 3-month low. But 55.1 is a very acceptable reading, and particularly when you consider we're 2 years past Brexit, or heading into the 2nd year past Brexit, and they've done extremely well with that. Business optimism. Now, I don't like sentiment when people are asking for, how do you feel about this? And so I try to, I'm much happier with, what were your sales last month? Or were your sales better than the month before? Something that takes the opinion out of it and goes to fact. Business optimism in the UK hit a 6-year high this month.
Wow. That's impressive.
That's an impressive number.
Yeah.
No
So
doubt.
we expect to see that. Let me touch on the Eurozone for just a minute. It's all about output and new orders. The index, PMI, was at 57.9 for the overall 8 countries in the Eurozone. Germany hit 60.7. That's a 37-month high. France hit 56.1, a 37-month high. Italy, 37 or 56.9, 37-month high. So obviously it's pretty widespread.
Norbert, I'm wondering how France is doing so well in view of the fact that they're shut down.
Again, people can only report on activities that are in process. So they may be at 80% of capacity, but that 80% is doing well. So the other thing is, manufacturers in particular are always capable of finding ways to do things. And it may be shifting production, it may be highlighting certain production items, any number of reasons how they do that. It's kind of like the old stories about oil, loading a tanker full of oil, send it 10 miles offshore so it could now be classified as imported oil. And not that they're unscrupulous, it's just have very strong survival instincts. And so we see that. Now, Greece was the only one of those 8 countries, and they were at 49.4, which is basically saying same as the month before. It's not really that bad, but they've really gone through some good times recently, and they really needed to do that.
Norbert, I'm curious about a country we almost have never talked about, although it gets a lot of attention on the nightly news, for other things. What is Russia's impact in terms of their purchasing horsepower and economy?
You know,
Prior to today?
right, right. We'll have to see. And again, those boycotts and all those things, people tend to find a way around those. Ultimately, they're never as bad as they might seem. But I really believe Russia is just so small, and it's definitely not a growth economy. So there's really not a lot to follow. And they're capable of whitewashing the data in a way that favors them. So I've looked at Russia a number of times, and I've never been able to gain confidence that they're really going to report something that's meaningful. You probably saw the other report this morning that China's saying their first quarter grew at 18%.
Yeah.
And I find that extremely interesting because they have a flat line basically in terms of the PMI data and so on. The Caixin survey was at 50.6 and the other was at 51.9. There's no way that supports 16% growth in GDP. So it really makes me wonder.
The point that you bring up and is, who do you believe more or less, China or Russia?
Yeah, well, I always like the one about who do I believe, you or my own lying eyes? And I think it's in the case of the Russians, you believe your own lying eyes as to what's happening, because I just can't. The numbers don't correlate. They don't support each other. Whereas we go back and look at the UK at 55.1. That sounds perfectly logical for a 4.5% growth in GDP in the UK. But if I tried to tell you it was 16%, you'd say, well, with that little difference, you're not going to fool us with that kind of a number. So I do think we need to be cautious about what these numbers really mean when it comes to some of those. Another factor, and again, this is all political stuff. Russia's attempt to intimidate Taiwan. I'm sorry, I said Russia. China's attempt to intimidate Taiwan.
Right.
And they would be hurting themselves tremendously because most of their semiconductors come from Taiwan. Not only ours, but theirs too. So I don't know what the name of the game is with what they've got going on right now. But Taiwan has been a democracy for 70 years. I would hope that we can't let that kind of intimidation actually have any impact.
And so what is their semiconductor output at this point, Norbert? Obviously, there's a shortage worldwide.
Well, as you've seen, Intel has announced a major $20 billion investment in new chips and so on. Others have done the same thing. AMD is doing the same thing. Micro, I can't get the name right of it right now, but one of the other major U.S. manufacturers. So, they're all putting money into expansion but that means a lot of equipment, and so that doesn't come overnight. They can talk about it now, but it'll take 2 years maybe to get a lot of that capacity in place.
Well, the automotive industry is probably gonna not be happy hearing that. They already have cars sitting on the line waiting for new chips to come in.
Well, and some of them are better. Toyota weathered all of this quite well. They had the ability to move cars around and keep their lines running and so on. And some of the others in Asia have not done anywhere near as well. So they've been struggling with enough components to build out their monthly plan. So we'll just have to see where they wind up.
I think the number that I heard here in the US, that because of the chip shortage, that we'll be producing between 1 million and 1.5 million less cars as a result.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Right.
The other thing unique to Taiwan is I've been over there, I guess, in the last number of years, at least 7 times. And I've been amazed with the number of tourists that are in Taiwan. And basically, they're all from Chinese mainland. It's their favorite place to vacation.
That's where they take all their money.
And I guess the Chinese pay them, and then they go back, back and forth. But by far, Taiwan is way ahead in terms of the importance of their product. Taiwan is the semiconductor capital of the world. They've got by far the greatest amount of capacity of high-end chips.
Right.
Some of the low-end stuff they have shied away from for a number of reasons.
Yeah, clearly that is going to have its ripple effects, which we're watching with interest. And we actually have a article in the April issue of Manufacturing Outlook e-zine on that very subject. So we'll have to watch that. Norbert, headwinds. I mean, obviously things are going well, short of a geopolitical screw up. What else could derail what we've got going?
Well, if we go down and look at just simply the things that really support manufacturing, it's the ability to purchase components from wherever in the world they can do the best job for them and buy from those places. And so that's the first thing. Rare earth minerals kind of falls into that line of China has just about a lock on many of the rare earth, though I've heard about some things going on out west that to try to expand our production of rare earth. Certainly that's an issue. I think the political issue, and particularly the politics surrounding the virus, I just find it hard to believe that we can't get a better picture of was China responsible for the virus? Were they not? How are they going to let them off the hook for any of that? And I think the only way we can hope that we don't have to go through another virus is to find out the answers to some of those questions, and they may not be answerable. Certainly to this point, the Chinese haven't shown any willingness to accept any. For them to accept responsibility is for them to accept liability.
You're right. Right.
And I don't know how many lawyers they have in China. Probably if they need a few more, we could send
Some of ours.
some of ours, as long as we don't have to guarantee them.
Or get them back.
Right,
Just leave them there.
right. So I think that those things, I think the inventory situation, it has taken far longer to resolve the inventories. So that we're trying to run at high capacity with low inventories. And that's very, very difficult to do. So, you know, I looked for that. And right now, pricing. If we look at almost anything, you look at the ISM report, and it gives you all the commodities that are up in price. That's significant to be able to have reasonable prices, you know, and ultimately the cure for high prices is high prices. And when those prices go down, it's because demand finally switched, created greater capacity. It's something that's driving those the demand side of it in order to get people to back off on the pricing. And the Fed keeps saying there's no inflation, and I have a hard time accepting that.
Yeah, it's certainly being felt in the B2B world. I'm not sure it's being felt yet in the B2C world. We'll just have to play that out. Norbert, I'm just curious about one more subject. Container ships and containers. Obviously, we had the blockage of the Suez Canal. We've had container ship lines pull ships out of the mix. They're bringing on larger capacity ships. Container costs have doubled since about the first of the year. What does that look like in terms of a headwind on imports?
Well, it certainly didn't help that we had that ship get stuck in the Suez Canal and stop everything, back up a couple hundred ships that were coming in. Excuse me, in many instances coming into Long Beach and LA, typical routes that they run. That's always a balancing act, Tim. Do we have enough containers? Who's controlling the containers? And I think it'll continue to be somewhat of a problem as long as we're trying to run at this kind of level. And, you know, if China is as busy as they say they are, then they may be flooding the marketplace with product around the world. So I think it's very difficult.
No doubt, no doubt. Lou, anything else you want to throw into the mix before we wrap up with Norbert?
No, I usually do bring up about this time of the show about Brazil, but I'm not going to do that today. Brazil is so far off the chart. I mean, it's a good thing that you've got 3 or 4 column wide, 8.5 by 11 sheets, because Brazil is almost at the far left. So we're going to leave them alone. They've got their problems, they got their politics, they got their criminals, and they got the politics, which is probably one and the same. So I'm going to leave that out.
Yeah, I think it's showing the weakness in the overall economy. And when I say weakness, I'm not talking about production. I'm talking about the weakness of the basic fundamentals, the rule of law,
right.
Other things that are going on from that, as opposed to, say, India, which India is doing all kinds of things to beef up their capability to do that. they've put credit cards in place there, and India's had problems historically with people not wanting to pay their taxes. And so they see the answer being that there will be no cash transactions. They'll all have to be on credit cards.
Right.
And that way their national sales tax will play out nicely for them.
Right, right. And so they track that, and I think that's reasonable. If you don't have integrity within your business transactions, that's not the type of economy you can count on, nor is it one you would want to invest in.
Yes, true.
Well, I think to help the India economy, all Americans on this Sunday should call somebody in India and tell them that their auto insurance and warranties on their cars are expiring.
Okay.
Tim,
Well,
so you.
we appreciate you being on with us. And as always, we encourage people to go to mfgtalkradio.com to hear Norbert's reports, or surf over to Jacket Media Co. That's CO, jacketmediaco.com, where you can see all of our podcasts listed. And we have 4 weekly shows and 2 monthly shows and an e-zine that goes out. So we're really busy pushing out content to the manufacturing industry. And as always, we appreciate you listening to this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio.